Well, we're on chapter 5 of our book, Wild Rescuers Escape to the Mesa, and today I was a little lonely, so I have my unicorn, thanks to Riley, and I'm ready to read chapter 5. I'm going to the campground to look for more clothes, Stacy announced on a particularly chilly afternoon about a week after she'd read the newspaper article. And I think it's best if I go alone. There will be a lot of tourists this time of year to see the fall leaves. Stacy hated lying to her wolves. She almost never did it, but she knew they would never approve if they knew the real reason she wanted to sneak away for a few hours. Her excuse wasn't a complete lie. She did need some new clothes. She'd grown 2 inches taller in the last year. Addison had helped her keep track of her height on the cave wall with chalk, and she'd outgrown the few winter clothes she had. It wasn't a bad idea to head over to the campground in the taiga to check out the lost and found box or see if anyone had left a jacket or sweatshirt lying around one of the picnic tables. But the real reason she wanted to leave the cave for a few hours alone was to go to the village council meeting. Stacy didn't know what she would hear at the meeting, but she knew she had to be there to figure out how to best protect her wolves. And don't be alarmed if I'm not back before it gets dark, she said, waving goodbye to the wolves and Paige. People might not get their coats out of their packs until the sun goes down. Everest shot her a disapproving look. Don't worry, boy, Stacy called back to him. I'll only swipe someone's jacket if I see them littering. As soon as Stacy was a few hundred feet away from the cave, she stopped and began furiously combing her hair with her fingers. I've got to look civilized, she muttered to herself, tying her hair into a neat side braid with a short piece of vine. She used her tongue to check if she had any blackberry seeds stuck in her teeth, then smoothed out her shirt and tucked it into her pants. I think this is as civilized as I get. It didn't take Stacy long to reach the river that separated the taiga from the village outskirts. There was a bridge farther to the south near the electrical substation, but Stacy knew of a crossing that was a straight shot to the center of the village. A few nimble jumps across some rocks, and she crossed the river and set off toward the small town. She waited in an alley near the village council building while a steady stream of villagers walked past her and entered through the doors. A few minutes after the last villager had gone in, Stacy quietly walked in and took a seat at the back of the large assembly room. So far, so good, she thought to herself. I don't think anyone paid me much attention. I can listen to what everyone has to say and then make a run for it when it's over. Stacy sat in the uncomfortable metal folding chair for over an hour as villagers took turns talking to the council members about various topics such as crop irrigation, an upcoming election, and funding for the new computers at the village library. It was interesting to Stacy to hear the villagers speaking passionately about the things they believed would make their community better. She didn't know there were humans like this other than the ones she'd met in the woods last summer, Miriam and Jack, who also thought that developing the taiga into a golf course and resort was a terrible idea. The people at the village council reminded Stacy of Miriam as they spoke about different initiatives to improve life in the village, ranging from help for the homeless to better pay for the teachers at the village public school. Even though the subjects were fascinating to Stacy, the villagers all had rather monotonous voices. You guys know what monotonous means? Like, just very one tone. She started to catch herself nodding off a few times and looked around to see if anyone had seen her jerk her head up. Luckily, no one was watching her. All right, we can now move on to the last topic of the agenda, one of the female villagers seated at the table in front of the room said in a dry tone. Would anyone like to discuss the photograph of the Arctic wolf printed in the Village Gazette last week? Stacy surveyed the room as villagers began whispering to one another in hushed tones. I think the photo was a fake, like the Loch Ness monster. It could be just a white wolf. It doesn't mean it's an Arctic one. I'd take my kids out camping in that forest. It's not safe now. They better not start eating my sheep again. Shouldn't have ended the wolf bounty so soon. Maybe we should have let the forest fire burn a little longer. Stacy couldn't believe what she was hearing. They were the same villagers who 10 minutes ago had been proposing thoughtful plans to improve their town and homes. How could they not understand that the taiga was the wolves' home, and they had every right to live there undisturbed? I'd like to say something about it, Madam Councilwoman, said a woman standing at the front of the room. Stacy let out a tiny gasp when she saw who was speaking. It was Miriam. In light of the white wolf sighting over the summer, shouldn't the construction company hold off doing any more work in the forest until it's determined if the forest is home to more of these wolves? Stacy smiled. She was so happy to have an ally to fight in the fight against the resort. Like her, Miriam viewed the taiga as a special place, a place that needed to be protected, not cleared to make way for a golf course. I'm not convinced the photo is real, a villager piped up from the back near Stacy. Even if it was, how do we know that it wasn't just a lone wolf just passing through? Stacy desperately wanted to speak up, to tell everyone that Wink wasn't a lone wolf, that there were actually 6 Arctic wolves living in the taiga, and they weren't just passing through. It was their home. Not only was it their home, they were a vital part of the taiga's ecosystem, and they had a human-like intelligence, and they went on rescue missions and can't say anything. They probably won't believe me, and if they did, it could put my wolves in danger. Thank you, Miss Locklear, the councilwoman said to Miriam. We'll table the discussion until the next meeting. Stacy snapped back from her thoughts to see that Miriam had sat back down and the meeting was wrapping up. Stacy's plan had been to sneak out early and head back to the forest, but she had a question, and she knew she wasn't going to get another opportunity like this again. Stacy walked up to Miriam and tapped her on the shoulder. Miriam turned around and a wave of recognition crept across her face. "Stacy!" she exclaimed, bringing Stacy closer to her for a hug. Stacy never experienced a hug from a person before, at least not one that she could remember. Tucker gave amazing hugs, but this hug felt nice too, and much less hairy. "It's so nice to see you again," Miriam continued. "Are your parents here?" Stacy hesitated. Would a normal human girl come to a council meeting alone, she wondered? "My family's outside," she said at last. "That's true, anyway. They're all way back in our cave." "Oh, okay," Miriam said. Her eyes narrowed a little as if she wasn't quite sure Stacy was telling the truth. "I just thought I'd come and lend my voice to try to buy the forest a little more time from the developers." "It's a really good idea," Stacy said. "I wondered, actually, if there's a way to prove that there was a pack of Arctic wolves living in the forest. Do you think they would cancel the plans to tear it down?" "I think there's a good chance they'd have to if that was the case," Miriam said. "A pack of wolves like that would need to be studied. The local college would probably be able to secure government funding to do research. The National Park Service might even be interested in protecting the land." "Protecting the land?" Stacy asked. "What does that mean?" "Sometimes the government will designate an area of land as a national park or forest because of its geology or historical significance, or in this case, because it's home to certain rare species of wildlife," Miriam told her. "Arctic wolves aren't endangered, luckily, but they're not found this far south, so they would be considered rare for this part of the world and their habitat worth protecting. But that's provided that there really is a pack of Arctic wolves living in the forest here, which seems like a long shot." Stacy looked down in disbelief. She knew her wolves were the protectors and guardians of the taiga, but it had never occurred to her that they could be the key to saving it altogether. If only there was a way to show everyone that the pack lived there without all the attention that would follow. "You've never seen a white wolf while you were out camping, have you?" Miriam asked her. "No, I haven't," Stacy lied, looking up to meet Miriam's gaze. "Wow, 2 lies in one day. This is a new low for me. But I'll keep an eye out if I do go camping again." "That's fine, but please be careful," Miriam cautioned. "Wolves will usually keep their distance from humans, but remember, they're wild." "Oh, I know they're wild," Stacy said. It was all she could do not to smile. And that's the end of chapter 5.